They were dragging their suitcases across the marble floor of the resort lobby when they saw me. My daughter froze first. Her smile collapsed like a bad investment. My son-in-law's face followed a second later, shifting from confusion to pure rage. "What the hell are you doing here?" he shouted, loud enough for half the lobby to turn their heads. "Are you stalking us now? Get lost!" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't defend myself. I simply looked at my watch. The security guard arrived before I said a word. "Sir," the guard said calmly, placing himself between us, "is there a problem with our guest?" My son-in-law pointed at me like I was a criminal. "Yes, this man is harassing my family. He followed us here." The guard turned to me instead. His tone changed instantly. "Mr. Wilson," he said respectfully, "welcome back. Would you like me to escort your guests to check-in?" The silence that followed was absolute. My daughter's knees nearly buckled. My son-in-law's mouth opened, then closed again. No sound came out. That was the moment they realized something was very wrong. I didn't come here to argue. I didn't come here to explain myself. I came because this resort, the one they were so excited about, the one they bragged about to friends and neighbors, belonged to me. They had invited everyone on this family vacation, everyone except me. A week earlier, I had smiled when they told me. I nodded. I even wished them a wonderful time. What they didn't know was that while they were booking flights and choosing swimwear, I was buying the property. I stood there in the lobby, calm, composed, dressed like any other businessman on the island, not like the old man with outdated curtains they had laughed about behind my back. My daughter finally whispered, "Dad, what is happening?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not hatred, clarity. "You wanted a vacation without me," I said quietly. "You have one." My son-in-law exploded. "This is insane. You can't just do this. We booked this place months ago." "Yes," I replied, "you did." The front desk clerk waited patiently, hands folded, trained not to react. Other guests pretended not to stare, failing badly. "This is harassment," my son-in-law snapped. "We're calling a lawyer." I nodded once. "You're welcome to." The security guard didn't move. Neither did I. Because this wasn't about revenge in the way movies portray it. There was no shouting, no threats, no fists slammed on tables. This was about consequences. They thought cutting me out of their lives would cost them nothing. They thought I was just a quiet, aging father with an ordinary house, an ordinary jacket, and an ordinary life. They never asked how I paid for weddings, cars, emergencies, and bailouts. They never asked where my money came from. They assumed I didn't matter. Standing there in that lobby, watching fear replace entitlement on their faces, I realized something important. This wasn't the end of the story. This was only the beginning. I wasn't always the man standing calmly in a resort lobby while my family unraveled in front of strangers. For most of my life, I was just a father doing what fathers are supposed to do: providing, fixing, paying, staying quiet. I worked as a facilities manager at a regional hospital for 32 years. 12-hour shifts were normal. Night calls, weekends, holidays. I missed birthdays and school plays because overtime meant stability. Stability meant security. And security meant my daughter would never have to struggle the way her mother and I once did. When my wife Margaret got sick, everything changed. Cancer doesn't care about plans. Insurance didn't cover everything. Over 4 years, I paid nearly $86,000 out of pocket for treatments, specialists, and medications that kept her alive just a little longer each time. I sold her jewelry, every piece. Wedding gifts, anniversary gifts, all of it. Jennifer was 23 when Margaret passed. fresh out of college, broken. I promised her one thing at the funeral. "You'll never have to worry," I told her. "I've got you." I kept that promise longer than I should have. The wedding came first. Kevin wanted something tasteful but elevated. His parents suggested venues. Jennifer showed me photos. I wrote the check. $35,000, almost every dollar I had saved at the time. I told myself it was worth it when I saw her walk down the aisle. Fathers are supposed to sacrifice, right? Then came the car, a Tesla, $15,000 down payment. Kevin called it an investment, better resale value, he said. They never mentioned paying me back after the first year. Then the emergencies. $8,000 to clear a credit card Kevin said was temporary cash flow. $12,000 for furniture in their new apartment. Another $6,000 when Kevin's freelance work slowed unexpectedly. Over 12 years, I gave them just over $70,000. That number is conservative. I stopped counting when I realized the counting hurt more than the spending. I lived differently. Same house, same furniture, same curtains Patricia mocked at my dinner table. Same jacket I wore to my daughter's wedding and her promotion dinner years later. I never upgraded because I didn't need to. I was comfortable, content, quiet. What Jennifer never knew was that after Margaret died, I started learning. Real estate seminars, night classes, weekends reading contracts instead of watching television. I worked double shifts and invested carefully. In 2008, when the market collapsed, I bought my first small hotel in Tampa for a fraction of its value. Renovated it myself, room by room, nights and weekends. Sold it 18 months later at a profit. I reinvested everything. By the time Jennifer married Kevin, I owned 4 properties through Wilson Holdings, LLC, 2 boutique inns, 2 bed and breakfasts. Combined value just over $3 million. I never told her. Not because I was hiding, but because I didn't want money to change how she saw me. It did anyway. To Jennifer and Kevin, I was the man with the old house, the outdated taste, the quiet life, the father who always paid and never asked questions. They didn't see the discipline, the restraint, the decades of work behind every dollar. They only saw what they thought I was worth. I sat at my desk one night, long before the vacation incident, reviewing bank statements and trust documents, realizing something that hurt more than any insult. They didn't see my generosity as a gift. They saw it as an obligation. That was the foundation I had built my family on. Sacrifice without limits. Support without boundaries. And like all structures built without balance, it was already cracking. The betrayal didn't arrive all at once. It crept in quietly, wearing the face of small comments, casual dismissals, and moments that were easy to excuse if you wanted to keep believing in your family. It started with tone. Jennifer used to call me every Sunday. Not for money, just to talk. About work, about life, about nothing important. Then the calls became shorter. 10 minutes. 5. Texts instead of voices. Kevin was always nearby, always listening, always correcting. "Dad, Kevin says that's not really how things work anymore," she'd tell me, as if experience had an expiration date. At dinner, Kevin began treating my house like a waiting room. He never sat comfortably, always half turned toward the door, like he was doing me a favor by staying. One night, he glanced around my living room and said, "Have you ever thought about modernizing this place? It feels stuck." Jennifer laughed lightly, not cruelly, worse, politely. I laughed too. That was my mistake. Then came the money assumptions. Kevin stopped asking before borrowing. He started informing. "We're going to put some charges on the card this month," he said once, like it was weather, not my credit line. Well, sort it out later. Later never came. At Jennifer's promotion dinner, I wore the same navy jacket I'd worn for years. Clean, pressed, familiar. Kevin's mother glanced at it and smiled thinly. "Still practical, Robert," she said. "That's admirable." Jennifer didn't defend me. She looked at her phone. At the table, Kevin poured wine for everyone. His parents, Jennifer, himself. He skipped my glass. I watched the bottle pass right in front of me, then settle at the far end of the table. Jennifer saw it. She said nothing. That was when something inside me shifted. Not broke, shifted. The respect wasn't gone all at once. It was leaking away, moment by moment, because I allowed it to. The final warning came the night I overheard them by accident. I'd gone upstairs to grab paperwork. Their voices carried easily through the hallway. "He won't need the house forever," Jennifer said calmly. "It's too big for one person." Kevin laughed. "Exactly. Once it's sold, we clear the cards and upgrade. He'll be happy helping the family." Helping the family. That phrase echoed in my head long after they left. I stood there, unseen, realizing something painful and undeniable. They weren't waiting for me to offer. They were planning to take. In their minds, my life was already being liquidated. That was the moment denial became impossible. I wasn't a father anymore. I was an asset. There's a difference between feeling disrespected and realizing you've been erased. The vacation was the moment I understood which one this was. Kevin announced it like a victory. A family trip, he called it, standing in my dining room, hands in his pockets, already picturing himself on a beach. St. Thomas, a boutique resort, private cove, 7 nights. Jennifer smiled the way she used to when she was a child, asking for something she already knew the answer to. I waited for the rest of the sentence. It never came. "There's only budget for 5 tickets, Kevin said casually. Me, Jen, and my parents. He said it like math, like numbers couldn't lie. I told them I could pay my own way. I told them I'd love to go. I even said it lightly so they wouldn't feel cornered. Jennifer didn't look at me. "We just need some space, Dad," she said. "You understand." Space. From the man who paid for weddings, cars, credit cards, and emergencies. From the father who never said no. I nodded, smiled, wished them a good trip. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying her words over and over. Not the tone, not the apology, the certainty. They weren't asking, they were informing. The real betrayal came the next morning. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard them talking in the kitchen. My name came up, casually, like an item on a list. "He's sitting on equity," Kevin said. "That house is worth at least $400. Jennifer agreed. "He doesn't need all that space. We can frame it as simplifying his life." I leaned against the wall, heart steady, strangely calm. "Once the house sells," Kevin continued, "we reset everything. Clean slate." Jennifer laughed softly. "Hell, be happy helping the family." That was it. They weren't planning a conversation. They were planning a conversion. My home. Margaret's home. The place where I buried her ashes in the garden. Reduced to leverage. I went back upstairs without making a sound, sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and for the first time I stopped asking myself how to fix this. Instead, I asked a different question. What would they do if they finally understood who I really was? That's when I made the call. The moment after betrayal is quiet, not dramatic, not loud, just still. I sat alone in my home office with the door closed, the same room where I had paid bills, planned holidays, and believed I was building a future for my daughter. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I expected anger, rage, something violent. Instead, I felt awake. For the first time in years, I stopped reacting and started calculating. I opened my laptop and logged into an account Jennifer had never seen. Wilson Holdings, LLC. 4 properties. Clean balance sheets. Steady cash flow. No leverage that could be weaponized against me. Total market value just over $3.2 million. This wasn't a fantasy. It was 30 years of discipline, of choosing delayed gratification, of working nights and weekends when others rested, of learning quietly while everyone assumed I was ordinary. I realized something painful then. They thought I was powerless because I never reminded them of my power. That was on me. The next morning I called my attorney. Mark Davidson had handled my wife's estate years earlier. He knew me, trusted me. Most importantly, he didn't panic. "I need to protect my house," I told him, immediately. There was no judgment in his voice, only understanding. "We can place it in an irrevocable trust," he said. "You retain full control. No one can force a sale. No leverage, no surprises." "How fast?" 3 days if we move aggressively." "Do it." Then I called my banker. "Robert Wilson, calling for account services." He picked up on the second ring. "I need access to $1.9 million within 48 hours, I said. "Combination of liquid assets and credit line." Silence. Then, calmly, "Purpose?" "Commercial acquisition." Another pause. "I'll make it happen." That afternoon, I sat with Mark in his office, signing documents while he explained each clause. Not because I didn't understand, but because I wanted everything airtight. This wasn't revenge. This was insulation. When we finished, he looked at me carefully. "Robe," he said, "this feels personal." "It is," I replied, "but it's also necessary." He nodded. "Just remember, when you move like this, there's no going back." I smiled faintly. I stopped going back the moment they planned to sell my life. That night, I didn't sleep much. Instead, I researched. The resort Kevin had booked wasn't owned by a corporation. It was privately held, listed for sale. Owner retiring, motivated. Asking price $1.85 million. I stared at the listing photos. White sand, turquoise water, infinity pool overlooking the cove. The same place my family was about to enjoy without me. That's when the plan stopped being abstract. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to confront. I was going to let reality teach the lesson. I picked up the phone and made one final call. "Martin Reeves," I said. "I'm interested in Paradise Cove Resort." Revenge doesn't need noise. Noise warns people. Noise gives them time to prepare. Silence lets them walk straight into the consequences they helped design. While Jennifer and Kevin were packing swimsuits and charging cameras, I was moving money and signing documents. Quietly, methodically, legally. 2 days after my call, I was on a flight south. No dramatic goodbye, no announcements, just a carry-on bag and a briefcase full of paperwork. Paradise Cove Resort looked different in person. Smaller than the photos. Older, but solid. Good bones. That's what mattered. The owner was tired. You can see it in a man's shoulders when he's been fighting a losing battle for too long. "I built this place 20 years ago," he told me as we walked the grounds. "I just don't have it in me anymore." I nodded. I understood exactly what that felt like. We sat in his cramped office that afternoon. I made my offer without posturing. $1.72 million, I said. All cash. Close in 48 hours. His hands shook when he accepted. By Friday morning, Paradise Cove belonged to Wilson Holdings, LLC. No delays, no drama, no headlines. Ownership transferred. Staff retained. Operations unchanged. Except for one thing. I met with the general manager privately, a capable woman named Amanda, sharp, observant. "There's a reservation arriving August 21st, I told her. "Morgan party, 4 guests. She pulled it up instantly. "Yes, deluxe ocean view suite, week-long stay." "Change it," I said calmly. "Standard rooms. Apply updated pricing across all services." She hesitated. "They'll complain." "They're welcome to. I didn't ask her to mistreat them. I didn't break a single rule. Every change complied with policy. Ownership transition clauses, notification windows, updated rates posted legally. No lies, no shortcuts, just precision." That same week, back home, my attorney finalized the trust. My house was removed from the reach of anyone who thought blood entitled them to control. Jennifer couldn't sell it. Kevin couldn't leverage it. Nobody could touch it without my consent. I didn't tell them. There was no need. Let them enjoy their vacation countdown. Let them feel secure. Let them believe I was still the man who smiled, nodded, and paid. I was done being that man. On the morning they left for the airport, I helped Jennifer carry her bags to the car, wished her a safe flight, even slipped $500 into her purse for spending money. Kevin smirked. "At least you're useful," he muttered. I smiled faintly. The trap was already closed. They just hadn't stepped on it yet. Arrogance always peaks right before the fall. I saw it in the way Kevin walked through the airport in the photos Jennifer later posted online. Sunglasses indoors, carry-on rolling behind him like a trophy, captioned "Confidence," hashtags about luxury and freedom. They were finally on the trip they believed they deserved. A week without me. It was a week without the old man and his outdated house, his quiet routines, his inconvenient presence. Kevin posted first, a photo of the ocean taken from the plane window. Finally unplugging. Well earned. Jennifer followed with a selfie at the gate, smiling too wide, like someone trying to convince herself this was happiness. Family time. Blessed. I watched all of it from my office chair at Paradise Cove, reviewing staff schedules and vendor contracts like any other hotel owner preparing for arrivals. They didn't know I could see them. Kevin didn't know that while he mocked my jacket and dismissed my life, I was reviewing his reservation in the system. I saw every note, every expectation, every assumption. He believed the world worked the way it always had for him. Push hard enough. Talk loud enough. Someone else would absorb the cost. At baggage claim, they took another photo. 4 suitcases lined up neatly. Dennis and Patricia smiling proudly, already imagining the stories they'd tell neighbors back home. "Exclusive boutique resort," Patricia had bragged before leaving. "Not many people know about it." She was right. Not many people knew who owned it either. When their taxi pulled into the driveway, Kevin stepped out first, scanning the property with a critic's eye. He expected perfection. He expected privilege. He expected compliance. He had no idea he was walking onto ground I controlled completely. Inside the lobby, before they even saw me, Kevin slapped his credit card on the desk. Morgan, Deluxe Ocean View, were checking in. The confidence in his voice was almost admirable. He hadn't yet noticed the subtle changes, the new signage, the updated policy plaque, the different energy in the room. That confidence evaporated the moment Amanda paused at her screen. "Mr. Morgan," she said politely, "there's been a slight adjustment to your reservation due to an ownership transition." Kevin scoffed. "That's fine. We booked months ago." That's when Jennifer looked up and saw me. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost frightening. Kevin followed her gaze and turned slowly, irritation already forming on his lips. Then recognition hit. His arrogance didn't disappear instantly. It fought. "What is he doing here?" he demanded. "This isn't funny." I said nothing. I didn't need to. The security guard addressed me by name. Amanda called me sir. The system treated me like what I was, the owner. Kevin's posture changed. Shoulders tight, jaw locked. The realization crept in reluctantly. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't a joke. This was something he hadn't planned for. Still, arrogance dies hard. "This is harassment," Kevin snapped. "You can't do this to us." I finally spoke. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said calmly. "I'm running a business." That was the moment his confidence finally cracked. Not because he was embarrassed, but because he understood he no longer had leverage. No raised voice could change ownership records. No threat could override contracts. No entitlement could bend reality. They had arrived believing they were untouchable. They were about to learn the cost of that belief. The moment arrogance collapses is never loud. It's quiet, confused, almost polite. Kevin stood at the front desk, staring at the screen like it might blink and fix itself if he waited long enough. Jennifer hadn't moved since she saw me. Her purse hung from her shoulder, forgotten. Dennis and Patricia hovered behind them, whispering urgently, eyes darting around the lobby like they were looking for an exit. Amanda's fingers moved calmly across the keyboard. "Your rooms are ready," she said. "Standard accommodations, second floor." Kevin snapped back to life. "Standard? We booked the Deluxe Ocean View Suite." "Yes," Amanda replied evenly, "under previous ownership. You were notified of the reassignment 72 hours ago." "That's a lie," he said instantly. "We didn't receive anything." She turned the monitor toward him. Date, time, email address, read receipt. Kevin pulled out his phone, scrolling frantically. I watched his face change when he found it. The email he'd ignored, the one he assumed didn't matter. Jennifer sank onto the lobby sofa without a word. "This is unacceptable," Kevin said, voice rising. "You're punishing us because of personal issues." I finally spoke. "This has nothing to do with personal issues," I said calmly. "This is an ownership transition. Terms changed. You were notified." Dennis cleared his throat. "Robert, surely there's some flexibility here. We're family." I looked at him then. Really looked at him. "You were family when you let Kevin speak to me like I didn't belong," I said. "You were family when you enjoyed a vacation I wasn't welcome on." Silence. Amanda placed 2 key cards on the counter. "Rooms 12 and 14, she said. "Breakfast is served from 6 to 10. Pool hours are posted. If you need anything else, let us know." Kevin snatched the cards like they were weapons. "This isn't over," he muttered. I nodded. "You're right." The elevator ride was quiet. I didn't join them. I didn't need to. I watched from my office as they entered their rooms, room 12 first. Jennifer opened the door and stopped. No ocean view, no balcony, just a parking lot, a maintenance shed, and a distant glimpse of palm trees if you leaned far enough to the left. Kevin swore loudly. Room 14 followed. Patricia dropped her purse onto the bed like it had betrayed her. Dennis stood at the window, staring at the same disappointing view. "This isn't what we paid for," Patricia whispered. Kevin's voice carried through the hallway. "This is deliberate, every bit of it." He was right, but not in the way he thought. That evening they came down for dinner. The restaurant was full. Other guests laughed quietly over cocktails. A couple celebrated an anniversary at the corner table. The atmosphere was exactly what Paradise Cove promised. Kevin opened the menu and froze. "These prices are wrong." The server smiled apologetically. "Updated pricing went into effect this week, sir." Kevin laughed, sharp and humorless. "Updated pricing? That's convenient." I sat at a table near the window reviewing paperwork. I didn't look at them until Kevin approached. "This is extortion," he said. "You're abusing your position." I closed my folder slowly. "I'm running a business," I said, "the same one you were excited to stay at." He stared at me, searching for anger, for guilt. He found neither. They ate anyway. What choice did they have? Their meal cost nearly twice what they'd planned. Patricia pushed her food around the plate. Dennis drank water instead of wine. Jennifer barely touched anything. The bill arrived. Patricia's hand shook when she saw it. That night, the complaints began. The Wi-Fi was unstable. The air conditioning was loud. The shower pressure was weak. All true, all normal, all documented. Kevin documented everything too. Photos, notes, timestamps. He was building a case. He didn't realize there was nothing to prosecute. By midnight, the vacation glow was gone. By morning, the illusion was dead. And the real cost was only beginning to show. By the third day, the vacation had stopped pretending to be a vacation. No one laughed anymore. No photos were posted. No captions bragged about paradise. The silence between them grew heavy, thick with blame and exhaustion. Kevin woke early every morning, pacing the balcony corridor outside their room with his phone pressed to his ear. I recognized the posture. I'd seen it before in men who believed volume could substitute for authority. The Wi-Fi dropped again at 6:40 a.m. Not completely, just enough to interrupt a call. Kevin stormed down to the front desk in shorts and an expensive t-shirt, hair still wet from a rushed shower. "This is unacceptable," he snapped. "I'm losing work because of this." Amanda listened patiently. She always did. "Our service provider has acknowledged intermittent outages in certain areas of the property," she said. "The lobby and business center are fully operational." Kevin leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You know exactly what you're doing." She met his gaze calmly. "Sir, if you believe we are violating policy, you're welcome to contact local consumer protection." He did. I learned later that the consultation cost him $350. The lawyer found nothing actionable. Every change had been documented, every notice sent on time. Every inconvenience fell neatly inside legal tolerance. Kevin returned to the resort angrier, but also quieter. That was when the fighting started. Dennis blamed Kevin for antagonizing me. Patricia blamed Jennifer for letting things get this far. Kevin blamed Jennifer for not controlling her father. Jennifer blamed herself. I saw her crying alone by the pool during cleaning hours, shoulders shaking, sunglasses hiding eyes that no longer believed in the trip they'd promised themselves. That afternoon, she called me. "How could you do this to us?" she asked, her voice breaking. "We're family," I answered calmly. "You decided I wasn't part of that family," I said. "I accepted your decision." "You're punishing us." "No," I replied. "I'm letting you experience the consequences of your choices." She hung up. On the fourth night, Kevin tried one last angle. Early checkout. He marched to the desk with rehearsed confidence, credit card already in hand. "We're leaving tomorrow," he said. "I expect the unused nights to be refunded." Amanda shook her head gently. "Our cancellation policy applies to the full reservation." Kevin's jaw tightened. "Then what's the total?" She printed the bill and slid it across the counter. $4,200. Kevin stared at it, eyes darting across the numbers like they might rearrange themselves if he stared hard enough. "That's wrong," he whispered. "It's accurate," Amanda said. He swiped his card. Declined. He tried again. Declined. Dennis stepped forward, fumbling for his wallet. His card declined too. Patricia clutched her purse like it contained oxygen. Jennifer stepped forward without a word, handed over her card, and turned her face away as the terminal beeped approval. The sound echoed louder than any argument. They checked out the next morning without speaking to each other. No goodbyes, no complaints, just silence. That same day, while they were in the air flying home, my attorney delivered the final piece. The trust documents were placed neatly on my kitchen table. By the time they arrived back in Orlando, exhausted, humiliated, financially shaken, they discovered the truth. The house wasn't for sale. It couldn't be sold. It was never theirs to plan around. Kevin punched a wall, left a dent, then left altogether. Jennifer stayed behind long enough to read every page twice. That was when reality finally crushed entitlement. Not because I yelled, not because I demanded, but because I stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own behavior. The house felt different after they left. Quieter, yes, but not lonely. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like ownership. Kevin was gone by the time I returned home. He left behind a dent in the kitchen wall and a trail of unpaid bills he could no longer hide. Jennifer stayed long enough to read the trust documents, then left without a word. I didn't stop her. Some lessons require distance. Days passed, then weeks. Jennifer called once. I didn't answer. She called again, left a message, not asking for money, not blaming me, just crying, saying she didn't know who she had become, saying Kevin blamed her for everything, saying she was scared. Fear was new for her. That was good. A month later, she knocked on my door. She looked smaller than I remembered. No makeup, no confidence, just exhaustion and something fragile that might have been humility. "I was wrong," she said, "about everything." I didn't interrupt her. She told me about the debt, about the credit cards, about Kevin's resentment turning into cruelty once the money stopped flowing, about the divorce papers she filed. "I thought family meant you would always catch me," she said quietly. "I didn't realize how much I was pushing you off a cliff." I listened. When she finished, I gave her two choices. "No more money," I said. "No shortcuts, no leverage. If you want a relationship with me, it will be built on respect, not obligation." She nodded immediately. "I'll take that." She moved into a small apartment, paid her own rent, took a second job, started therapy. I didn't help financially. I helped by being present. We met once a week for coffee, slow conversations, awkward at first, then honest. Trust doesn't return all at once. It arrives quietly, like sunrise. Kevin disappeared from our lives entirely. Last I heard, he was staying with friends, drowning in debt, still blaming everyone but himself. His parents stopped calling. Shame has a way of isolating people. As for me, I returned to my life. My hotels ran smoothly. Paradise Cove thrived under proper management. My house remained exactly as it was. Same curtains, same furniture, same jacket hanging in the closet. But I was different. I had boundaries now. I had learned something too many fathers learned too late. Love without limits isn't kindness. It's surrender. And surrender teaches people to take. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped sacrificing myself to preserve a lie. What remained was quieter, smaller, but real.